This week on Cana and Mike's Movie Night, it's Central Intelligence. Hello everybody and welcome to Cana and Mike's Movie Night.
I'm Cana.
I'm Mike and we are watching Central Intelligence. It is our... Well, we have our guest star Morgan. Wouldn't be Cana and Mike's Movie Night without her.
At least not without one of the cats.
Without one of them, yes. She will eventually make her way at least somewhat off camera. Anyway, this is the second Cana and Mike's Movie Night of 2017. It's not actually 2017 when we're recording this, but YouTube, it's 2017, and this is our second episode of the new year. And it's also the first time we are not reviewing what is essentially a geeky movie. Because I'm pretty sure everything we've reviewed up to this point has been a geek fest of some profession.
Zombies can be a geek fest?
Well, that particular one probably shouldn't be. But if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch our Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies episode. And don't. No, it's more entertaining than the movie. So go back and watch that. So Central Intelligence, just to give you a basic idea of what you're walking into, it is a buddy cop movie. Starring Kevin Hart and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. As another of our cats tries to disassemble our floor. But it's basically a buddy cop movie with two old high school friends that wind up as an unlikely duo working for the Central Intelligence Agency 20 years later.
Not exactly.
Well, the basic premise starts off with the Golden Jet, Calvin, being played by Kevin Hart, working in basically a dead-end job as an accountant. And he hates his job.
Which a lot of us can relate to.
Some of us can. And so he is in this particular dead-end job, not doing much of anything. He married the high school sweetheart, the most beautiful girl in school. He got that right. They were
prom king and queen.
Yeah, they were the homecoming king and queen. They both went to college. They both got degrees. She's a lawyer. Calvin was the big man on campus in high school. He was the two-time class president. He was in the drama club, and he was in all these other things. And dang it, Morgan. Okay. He was, he was the captain of the football team. He was the guy in high school. And his senior year, his, classmate, at least at first, Robbie Weirdick, played by Dwayne Johnson, is the fat kid in school that gets bullied. And while he is showering in the gym, or in the locker room, why he's showering there during first period, we don't know. They never tell us. Doesn't matter. The school bully comes in. They, with a bunch of his cronies, grab him and throw him out in front of the entire class, buck-ass naked, and embarrass him and basically scar him for life, based off what we see. 20 years later, high school reunion is around the corner, and a Facebook message from Bob Stone shows up for Calvin at work. Turns out that it is Robbie. He meets him in a bar. Suddenly he goes from being the big fat bully to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What?
I think you're pretty much going to give away the entire movie with the way you're giving a synopsis.
Folks, if you were expecting spoiler-free, you should have known better from watching our previous episodes.
But play-by-play? Really?
I'm just giving the setup. I'm about to stop. I'm getting to the end. Anyway. He meets Rob Stone, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and as it turns out, Bob Stone is a secret agent for the United States government working for the CIA, and who is on the run from the CIA for reasons we discover throughout the movie, and he needs Kevin Hart's help because Calvin is a forensic accountant. So, and hilarity ensues. So, we will start. Normally, I start things like this with the visuals, but it's not a geeky sci-fi movie. So, but I will say this: I think the production design was actually pretty good. I thought they did a really good job of making Dwayne Johnson. This is the part that struck me as the oddest. I haven't seen a whole lot of Kevin Hart movies, but Kevin Hart is a comedian. Dwayne Johnson is not. And so when you go into a movie like this, your immediate expectation is, because buddy cop movies, you have the straight man and you have the comedy guy. And so your immediate expectation is that the straight man in this relationship is going to be Dwayne Johnson. And it's the exact opposite. Kevin Hart is the straight man, and Dwayne Johnson is the comedian of the duo for this film. And they did a pretty good job of making Dwayne Johnson look like an out-of-touch kid from the 90s that didn't really grow up.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say about it?
I'm having flashbacks to the 90s.
Well,
there were some things that I was so thankful that I'd forgotten happened when I was in middle school and the beginning of my high school career, which was pretty much the majority of the 90s for me. But damn it, this movie brought it back. And they aren't necessarily good things to have been brought back. Though I will admit that The Rock can rock a fanny pack.
Well, he is a wrestler, so that's how you can always tell a wrestler, folks. If you ever are walking through public and you see someone wearing a fanny pack, you have a reasonable chance that they are a professional wrestler or somehow connected to the wrestling business. So that's why I kind of chuckled inwardly when The Rock shows up wearing a fanny pack in the movie.
If it's not Star Trek, it's wrestling.
Well, or it's tokusatsu. So like I said, I think the production design was pretty good. I give Kevin Hart credit because, again, I haven't seen a whole lot of Kevin Hart movies. When you have this kind of film, and when I think of a buddy cop movie, I'd gravitate towards Rush Hour or 48 Hours or to a lesser extent, Beverly Hills Cop. It's a 3-person dynamic in that movie instead of 2, but still. Yeah. There have been some really good buddy cop movies over the years. And the Lethal Weapon series, another set of buddy cop movies. To me, personally, the straight man has such a hard job in that style of movie because he's the one carrying the plot more than the comedian. If you watch the Rush Hour movies, at least the first one, you very much have Jackie Chan carrying a lot of the plot of the movie compared to Chris Tucker, because Chris Tucker is the funny guy. If you go back to 48 Hours, they do a pretty equal job because neither one of them are really playing for comedy, but I think Nick Nolte carries more of the plot than Eddie Murphy does in a lot of places. So Kevin Hart was a much better straight man than I would have given him credit for. What do you think?
Just to be honest, I didn't particularly like this movie, and I will admit that the majority of the movie I was looking for arts and crafts ideas to help raise money for adoption because I was bored out of my mind because I just wasn't finding that funny. So really, I have very little input.
But from what you saw, all 10 minutes of it...
give me 15. I'm pretty sure it was 15.
But, I mean, I think you would have to admit that Kevin Hart did a pretty admirable job as the straight man.
He did a good job as the straight man. I could not stand The Rock's character. I
had a hard time with it myself.
I did not like how they were having him portrayed. It was like he was stuck in 1996, but I couldn't tell if he was gay or straight or bi-curious or transgender. When I can't tell, but they're playing him in 20 different kind of gender roles, and I can't tell, it infuriates me.
Yeah, they did kind of treat The Rock as somewhat...
ambiguous.
Yeah, very ambiguous in that way because you could have scenes where you could tell there's very much a crush on Calvin from Mr. Stone in the movie. Yeah, The Rock's character, Dwayne Johnson, the character they gave him, Robbie Weirdick / Bob Stone, annoyed me a little bit too. I found it to be very over the top, and that is one thing to me for any kind of comedy, because there are different types of comedies, and this certainly fulfills one of those roles. I'm not a huge fan of the way over the top comedy.
I don't mind it, but it literally felt like there was a different director for every scene with him in it, because he was never
very inconsistent.
It was horribly inconsistent, and it just irritated me so much that I would rather look up how to make lighted canvases.
And she was actually painting canvases at the time.
Yeah.
I personally found it more of, not necessarily that it was different, felt like different directors. It was almost to me like they were working from different scripts at certain points of the film.
No, there was consistency in at least how it was written, but not how it was portrayed, which is why I said different directors, because every director is going to tell you to do a scene differently. So one will have you do it one way, the other one will have you do it another way, and so on and so forth. I've worked with enough fucking directors to know that one director can look at the same scene. Shut up! This is not the drinking game tonight. Damn it.
Enough directors.
I've worked with enough directors to realize one scene can have 50 different interpretations, and
sure,
each one can be different, but it's all the same script. And that's what it felt like. It did not feel like it was different scripts. It felt like it was different people's interpretation on how a scene should be done, and no one could figure what the fuck they were doing.
So the reason I say it felt like it was almost working from different scripts from different points was because there are scenes where The Rock's character comes off just through the dialogue. Because, I mean, it's just, there's somewhere he is super over the top, man crush completely. Then there are others where it gets dialed back a great deal, and I felt it more in the actual dialogue than I did in his portrayal, because he was over the top in both directions. But to me, he was either over the top man crush, I may be in love with you, to over the top, hey bros, bro, everything bro. And so it went from brotastic to man crush, and felt really weird in places.
You think?
The action, I think, was actually pretty good. Not the best buddy cop movie action I've ever seen, but I don't think it was bad. Some of their comedy beats were actually really, really pretty cool. They had some decent visual gags. There's one gag in the movie that my wife missed because she was
bored out of my mind.
Yes, she was bored out of her head. Where they're leaving a compound, and on the way out the door, Bob Stone grabs a grenade from an armory rack, and as they walk out to daylight, and Kevin Hart's character says, which car are we taking? The Rock, without missing a beat, just rolls the grenade under one of them and goes, not that one. At which point it blows up. So there's some decent little comedy beats and sight gags in there. But not... probably not enough, if you're looking at it with a critical eye, probably not enough to save it for some of the over-the-top stuff. Because we go in places from what I would consider buddy cop, decent comedy dynamic, to starting to hit some Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, over the top type performance and category.
See, you know what? I don't mind Adam Sandler's stuff. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't mind some of Adam Sandler's stuff.
Yeah, you should qualify that.
If he's with the proper co-stars, his over the top is well balanced, and it is a fun-filled movie that does not make me want to pick up my cell phone and look up new arts and crafts to do because I am bored out of my mind.
I've only seen one Adam Sandler movie that did not have me to the point that I was on Wikipedia doing something else.
Was that Imagine That or Bedtime Story? It was Bedtime Story, wasn't it?
I haven't seen either one of those.
Really?
Yeah, actually it was Pixels, which was a terrible movie. I was watching it for the train wreck.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that good either. It was a fun movie. I will say
Bedtime
that.
Story with Adam Sandler's good.
Maybe one day.
We'll own it. We will have kids, so we will have to own it.
So as I, start reconsidering the size of our DVD rack because my wife is now threatening me with Adam Sandler movies going on it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Adam Sandler.
You're also not a big fan of Will Ferrell, but you know what? You like Stranger Than Fiction. There are some good movies with actors that you just don't like.
Well, no, and I will give
Steve Carell. Steve Carell.
Steve Carell's got one. Get Smart. I thought was fantastic.
Do you also like the Despicable Me?
I do not count Despicable Me because it's voiceover.
It's still the same thing. It is acting.
It is acting, but I don't have to put up with looking at Steve Carell and some of his goofy ass shit. So anywho, back to the goofy ass shit we were watching.
I give up. I
thought the soundtrack was suitably 90s, if not.
Oh my gosh! It felt like middle school dances all over again.
I take it you did not enjoy the 90s, did you?
No.
I graduated in '99. So
I graduated in 2002. Not that
Generation X, millennial.
I'm not asking for a participation ribbon. Thank you very much.
No, you're not. But bottom line, I thought the soundtrack was actually fairly decent. I thought they did a pretty good selection of songs for the 90s to set the tone.
Oh my gosh, and then they used the 80s movies.
Well, that's what they would have grown up with.
I know, I grew up with them too, but you know what? 16 Candles and Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And, oh gosh, there was one other movie mentioned that... And,
I will say, now here's one thing that actually did take me aback a little bit and actually did bounce me out of the movie a little bit. And it's toward the end, so spoilers. There is a fight scene toward the end of the movie where Dwayne Johnson's character, Bob, winds out threatening to rip a guy's throat out. And then he actually does. And it's not something they exploit for gore. In fact, you never see the blood splatter or the gratuitous crap. The guy literally just clutches the wound at his throat, and you see some corn syrup and red food coloring around it. And when The Rock goes to help Kevin Hart's character up, the Golden Jet, when he goes to help him up, he's got the guy's trachea in his hand. That actually bounced me out of the movie for a minute because, one, that was a little bit of just real quick gore for comedy, which I'm not a fan of at all. Second, it looked really cheap.
It probably was because they wasted the majority of their budget getting the big names that they got in there. I mean...
I was going to say blowing up the car, but now, on the upside...
You can blow up cars inexpensively. I could blow up our cars inexpensively.
Let's not.
My point being, it's not that big of a budget to blow something up.
You realize one of these days, one of our cars is going to go boom, and the insurance adjusters are going to point to this video to say that you did it.
No.
So...
Because the way I would do it wouldn't be able to be traced back to me.
Well, it might not have been before you said something. And if you are watching this and you are an insurance adjuster, I had nothing to do with it. We didn't blow up a car. I swear.
I'm not going to blow up our car. We need 2 cars.
So, anyway. Because I just want to see if it can happen. Give me one thing you liked about this movie.
The outtakes.
There we go. They did go into some classic Jackie Chan territory. Jackie Chan's known for putting his outtakes at the end of movies, which I always enjoy. And this one had some really good outtakes at the end. The outtakes were funnier than half the crap in the movie, I will say that.
Yeah.
The thing you liked the least?
The movie.
Okay.
It was a good sound provider while I looked for arts and crafts.
Best thing to me about the movie was I was legitimately impressed by Kevin Hart's ability to be the straight man of a buddy cop duo. That actually impressed me. I would not be opposed to seeing him again in a similar type role in another buddy cop movie or similar dynamic. Just, I'll settle for 11. Just dial it back down from 15 or wherever the heck they were on the over-the-top scale for this. Because I know Dwayne Johnson can do better and can do something more subtle and still funny. This was neither. So...
Yeah.
Your rating, my dear, for those of you out there who have forgotten, because we basically took a few months off here on the channel, we have our 2-point rating system. Cell phones up means we were doing other stuff while this movie was playing.
Everybody already knows what my score
Yeah,
is.
well, anyway, let me explain the system for those people who are joining us for the first time. Cell phones up if you don't like it, if you'd rather be doing something else. Cell phone down if it engaged you and you were watching it. And somehow in the midst of all this, in earlier episodes, we've discovered that you can have half cell phones up and half down, and that made very little sense to me, but we're going with it. So,
Cell phone up.
yeah, all the way up for her. For myself, I give them an A for effort. They tried, and it was a good effort, but I would probably have to give this one a half cell phone up myself. I can't even give it a full cell phone down, because it's when it's good, it's fun, and when it's bad, it's kind of bad. But it was a fun movie. So if you're not looking for the next Rush Hour, then and you're just looking for a fun, somewhat over the top movie with some action, do what we did and get it for free at Redbox.
Yeah, this is our free movie.
Yes, well, at least until we see the next one.
I think the next one has a bigger chance of actually being decent.
But if you are looking for the next 48 hours, you are going to be woefully disappointed. So, why don't you tell the fine people what our next movie is?
Our next selection is Independence Day. Is it Resurgence?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to be checking out Independence Day Resurgence, the sequel
to the original Independence Day.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do that one sometime soonish too, just to have done both Independence Day movies. I don't know. But the next one is Resurgence, so that we can take a look at that and see what's going on. Cana picked that one out. Oddly, I'm the one that picked Central Intelligence, so...
Yeah.
You can't win them all, folks. Until next...
That's right.
Until next time...
I'm Cana.
I'm Mike, and we'll see you next Wednesday on Movie Night.